So the Russians are coming. Did you hear? At least that was the news early this week. According to the Big 7 News scoop, Russia's military is preparing to move onto Australia's doorstep, basing long-range bombers in Indonesia just north of Darwin. The Australian government is urgently seeking answers as national security concerns rock the election campaign. What a story. Quick house ad, guys. We got to 100,000 on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. This is entirely community funded. It's all funded by you guys. We create the journalism and so on the website. We put it across all of the platforms, and hitting 100,000, we only get a plaque or something, but it might help distribution. The message is getting out. Please help fund independent journalism if you're not already, if you can afford it, of course. So thank you for that. We're entirely community funded by you guys. The Ruskies are coming. The only problem was, it wasn't true. I got to give it to the old corporate media. If it's not the red alert, those Chinese coming to get us and snipping our undersea cables by disguising themselves as Kiwi climate scientists, now it's the Ruskies plotting to set up their military base in Indonesia on our doorstep. Well, you can't get them all right. Maybe it's better for 7 News to stick to core activities like funding Bruce Lehrmann's nightlife. Because you see, Indonesia has a firm policy of many decades of neutrality in defence and foreign affairs, not allowing foreign military bases, unlike we Aussies who have welcomed the Donald's bases with a warm and fuzzy embrace. No, Indonesia is neutral. Now, the new guy is pretty autocratic, Prabowo. He may have changed policy, but it was roundly denied the minute it happened, had no basis. So there you go. Every new week brings new joys. With Peter Dutton, so sadly, slipping in the polls, it's time to pull out all stops. It's kitchen sink time. They are throwing the kitchen sink at it, even resurrecting the kitchen sink himself, Jay Howard, resurrecting John Howard for Easter. How apposite. To quote John, Australians needed trusted economic managers at the helm. This was quite a testicular claim from John, because John himself racked up the most consecutive quarters of recession of every Australian treasurer of the last 50 years. You can check it on our Treasurer Measurer. We'll put the link in the description. Yes, we have done the work on economic performance, rating each treasurer by the standards which they set for themselves. GDP, economic growth. Now, personally, we probably think it's time to jettison this view of the common good, that it all comes down to GDP growth. GDP growth is everything, but that's how they judge themselves. And deficits and debt, of course, too. So on either measure, the Libs ain't looking too good. But if you check the graphic going back 5 decades, it explodes this myth of coalition superior economic management. Maybe it's time to finally bring in truth in advertising laws, because there's a lot of BS out there, as you've no doubt seen, particularly on social media. Now, we'll put the link in the description to the Treasurer Measure. It's worth having a look at. Haven't updated for a couple of years, but the same principles hold firm to this day, given the JobKeeper debacle, and the years of coalition deficits and then a couple of surpluses from Labor, until the last one, of course. So the week began, this week of the campaign, began with matching campaign launches. Bobbsey twins policies on the big issue, housing. Housing affordability is the big one domestically. And both policies were tinkering at the edges, really, not really addressing the issue of having to actually build houses, although Labor seems to be having more to say on that front. Apparently they haven't actually built one yet, but there are some in the pipeline. But both these policies were lambasted by the pundits of both the left and the right. It was the horseshoe theory. Both, said the left and the right, would simply push property prices a little bit higher. Corporate welfare, government welfare for property developers. Both did nothing to address the core policy issues, decades of skew towards investors over homeowners. Other countries, mind you, are in a similar basket, such as Canada, which has encountered serious housing affordability problems as well, very like Australia on the charts. But this story emerged, and let's hope we're not going here. A 31-year-old woman in a wheelchair pursuing voluntary assisted dying because she could not get set in the housing market to cater for her needs. That's latter stage capitalism for you. But here it is, down under, a duopoly duel. Its policy swaggers at dawn between the majors, justing to match each other. Thumbs up for the foreign property buyers ban, although it's not on new builds. It only goes for 2 years also, but they matched each other on that, and that's a move forward because Australians should not be competing with foreign investors to buy their first home. But isn't it lovely, though, this hive of activity? At this stage in the electoral cycle, just a couple of weeks out from the big poll, it's a furious cavalcade of policies descending upon us. There's so much care, so many announceables. I mean, you go for 3 years, but suddenly it's on a few weeks out. The caring, the warmth. This one from Susan Lee.
Can I just say, James and Bridget, when I talk to young people and I see their faces light up when they realise that, this is a party. Peter Dutton has said he wants to be a Prime Minister for home ownership, and they see that we care.
Oh, it makes the heart bleed to see at this point in the election cycle that there's so much love, so much caring. Sarah Ferguson even invoked the name of Michael Sukhar's mum over the 7:30 report when she chimed in with this timeless classic. She was interviewing Claire O'Neill, Housing Minister, and Michael Sukhar, the opposition shadow Housing Minister. They were duking it out on housing. And Sarah asked Michael...
I'm going to ask you one more time, and everyone is listening to me ask this question. Sure. How many social and affordable houses will you build?
Well, we will fund social and affordable
All right, that's it. You're not answering.
Not getting an answer. You'll get an answer out of me. We've got an acute shortage of housing around our country, but particularly in the social and affordable housing space. For those of you at home who are wondering why there is growing homelessness around your suburb and your town, why we have an acute problem with women not being able to leave violent relationships, why we have an extraordinary issue with older women being our biggest growing group going into homelessness, all this comes back to an acute undersupply of social and affordable homes. 28,000 of those homes, Michael.
What would your mother say, hearing you interrupt her?
I've been interrupted the entire time, Sarah.
Just please.
Would your mother say, hearing you interrupt her? Yes, it's Easter. It's time for mums, for families, for the resurrection of John Howard, for caring, for Russians who have mums too, plotting to launch missiles right on the doorsteps of our family homes. It warms the cockles of the heart, it does, the caring. The Seven really does deserve plaudits for this. The Ruskies are coming little number, even though it happened the Friday before we only got the transcript earlier this week. It was a classic, this one. You will love it. The AMP, the mighty AMP annual general meeting. We think this is quite possibly the AGM shareholder question of the year. By Andy Schmulo, the academic who's running for Senate on a corporatocracy ticket, keeping an eye on the power of corporations in our democracy. He's running for the Citizens Party. And this, you've got to get a load of this. The AMP board was gobsmacked. Here it is.
AMP's share price has gone from $18 a share to $1 a share. And while that's going on, the board of directors is paying themselves up to $7 million a year each for a company that they're running into the ground. They're like vultures picking the last piece of meat off the bone. They say they are concerned about rebuilding AMP's reputation. So they pay themselves 30% of their total salary based upon AMP's reputation. This is called a reputation score. They determine AMP's reputation by comparing AMP's reputation to the reputation of other companies. Now that's a fantastic idea. It's very necessary and I support that 100%. However, the directors of AMP have found a way to cheat. They cheat by comparing AMP's reputation to the shittest companies they can find. That way, they always pass the test and they get another approximately $2 million a year each.
The companies you've chosen, Shmulo announced to the board in front of all the shareholder throng.
The companies you've chosen include ANZ Bank. ANZ Bank is under a $1 billion capital charge because of their corporate governance failures, including, as it was revealed in November of last year, that they are still charging fees to the dead. $500 million of that $1 billion was levied against ANZ while you, Miss George, while you were the Deputy CEO of ANZ Bank.
It's a real thing in Australian banking. The Big Four, they love their dead customers. Anyway, back to Shmulo's question.
The next company you use is Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto was warned repeatedly that the Juukan Gorge site in Western Australia was one of the most culturally and historically significant sites anywhere in the world, that it is Australia's equivalent to Stonehenge. Despite repeated warnings about the significance of Juukan Gorge, Rio Tinto blasted that site into oblivion. The next company you use to compare yourself to is Qantas. Qantas was caught trying to steal $500 million from its customers by selling them air tickets on flights they knew were cancelled. At the same time, they took a $2 billion subsidy, tax-free from the taxpayer, a $2 billion subsidy called JobKeeper. No sooner had they taken that subsidy that they illegally fired 1,700 workers.
It's another $1 billion in other aviation subsidies, but let's not pick split hairs rather.
And the next company you use to compare yourself to is Westpac. Westpac paid a $1.3 billion fine for breaching anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws. Austrac, the money laundering regulator, warned Westpac about 300,000 so-called low-value transactions between Australia and the Philippines and Vietnam. Low-value transactions used to pay, listen to this, for pay-per-view, live-streamed, viewer-directed assault and torture of children and infants.
So I would like to know from you, Ms. George, do you think it is appropriate? And are you proud of the fact that 1/3 of your $7 million salary is linked to the reputational performance of companies that steal money from their customers, steal money from the dead, blow up and vandalise the most important historical sites in the world, and fund philia? Ouch. Now that is a heck of a question. Now, to be fair to the board of AMP, these measures were sort of fairly conventional. They picked a weird basket of stocks to measure themselves against, including the ATO on reputation, but there was incremental. They were measured against the improvement, the growth in reputation, and it was given the nod by the proxy advisors who advise the super funds on whether the pay is acceptable or not. But it's interesting that the rest of corporate Australia, it's interesting for corporatocracy in general, because they give themselves bonuses struck on various accepted measures too. And if you ever delve into an annual report and have a look at the calculations, the disclosures, there's usually about 40 pages of them, which nobody ever reads and very few people understand, except REM consultants. It's called REM, remuneration, as it is so complex, and deliberately so, REM. But you have to ask, would directors and company executives perform any better if they're paid $2 million rather than $1 million, with their extra $7 million in bonuses struck on top of the already lavish salaries that they get? Or is it just a scam of complexity? Does it matter? Does it work? Well, this week, that's the scam of the week. Because when it's framed this way by Andy Shmulo, we suddenly sit up and think, yeah, maybe the system is a bit weird. Come on down, AMP, the board of AMP. And thank you for your support. Thank you. Please like, share and comment in the section below, and join us on Patreon if you can.